An ICE agent literally came over to me and said, "What did you say?" I said, "I am not afraid." And they pointed a gun in my face. ICE put handcuffs on my hands and put me in a black SUV. And then a few moments later, they came back and they said, "Are you afraid yet?" And I said, "No." And then they said it. "Well, you're white. You wouldn't be fun anyway." It was then that I knew that this staging, that these ICE raids are really about fear and intimidation.
The response from ICE to a white Christian pastor when he said, "I am not afraid of you," was to point a gun in his face, cuff him and throw him into the back of a black SUV. And when he was defiant and said, "I am still not afraid of you," they responded saying, "You're white. You wouldn't be fun anyways." See what this is about now? So as I arrived at church yesterday, I noticed that there was something going on just a block and a half from the church. And so I grabbed my whistles because we're used to doing that. And I went down to see what was going on. And I realized it was an ICE raid. And there were many, many protesters. So I joined the protesting. And before I knew it, I saw ICE agents circling a young woman who appeared to be Hispanic. And so I approached her, and we were at that point chanting, "We are not afraid. We are not afraid. Go out of our state. We are not afraid." And I said to this ICE agent, "Take me. Stop harassing her. Take me." The agent came, got in my face, pointed a gun at me, and said, "Are you afraid now?" To which I said, "I am not afraid." The next thing I knew, they were putting handcuffs on me, and they put me in the back of an SUV. They came back 3 times, and they asked me if I was afraid yet. To which I replied, "Hell no, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm never going to be afraid of you." The third time when they came back, they asked for my identification. They asked for my cell phone. I asked them if I was under arrest. They didn't answer. And then they said to me, "Well, you're white. You won't be any fun anyway. You can get out of the car." I was astounded to experience and see such blatant racism and the effects that this is having on our community.
Absolutely nothing that he said should shock you. People of color, and certainly the black community in the United States, have been stating that this is the reality for eons. What that man said is terrifying, it's vile, it is nightmarish, but it shouldn't be shocking. And I'm seeing that clip making the rounds, and I'm seeing a lot of people be surprised. And that's really getting me. 'Cause like, how? How is that a surprise to you? Do you not listen to people of color until their experiences are validated by a white person?
We've been hearing rumors that ICE agents are literally targeting people of color. But there wasn't a confirmation about this. People are just saying the way these folks are treating people of color is different from the way they are treating their fellow white people. And then a pastor just decided to make it very clear that in fact it is true that they are targeting people of color, because he was interviewed and exposed that ICE agents in Minneapolis, Minnesota were threatening him. And when they saw that he isn't afraid, well, they just made it very clear, well, you are white, you wouldn't be fun anyway. So it means, what do they mean by you wouldn't be fun anyway and you are white? It means that they enjoy capturing people of color. They enjoy going after people of color, choreographing themselves as going after illegal immigrants and enforcing law and order. But in reality, they are enjoying doing the unthinkable to people of color. Let's watch this video, guys, for more information. Then we shall be talking about this.
We have some serious news right now, and I need everyone to see this video. A pastor was confronted and terrorized by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Kenny Callahan says that ICE agents pointed a gun at his face, handcuffed him, and put him in the back of an SUV during protests after the horrific shooting of Renee Nicole Good. He was released after 30 minutes without charge and was told by an agent, quote, "You're white anyway. You wouldn't be any fun." This video was obtained by Jessica Hart. Everyone needs to see it.
An ICE agent literally came over to me and said, what did you say? I said, I am not afraid. And they pointed a gun in my face. ICE put handcuffs on my hands and put me in a black SUV. And then a few moments later, they came back and they said, are you afraid yet? And I said, no. And then they said it. Well, you're white. You wouldn't be fun anyway. It was then that I knew that this staging, that these ICE raids are really about fear and intimidation.
Spread the word so more people know. Follow along for more.
Reverend Callahan of Minnesota said that yesterday he was peacefully protesting when ICE agents grabbed him, put handcuffs on him, shoved him in the back of one of their cars, and then after they murdered that woman in the street, they went to him and said, "Are you scared yet?" And they continued to ask him over and over again if he was scared yet. And then one of the officers said, "We're going to let you go now because you're white, so you won't be any fun anyway." He said he yelled back at them that he was not scared and that he would never be scared. And he would never stop standing up for the people that they were terrorizing and abusing in this country. He's a reverend. ICE agents do not have authority over U.S. citizens. That's why when they put handcuffs on U.S. citizens or try to detain them, they have to let them go. And there's no charges filed because, number one, this reverend wasn't doing anything wrong. He was exercising his First Amendment right to peacefully protest. And number two, they have no right to detain him, ever. The situation is getting out of hand and the National Guard has to be called in to protect U.S. citizens. I will continue to call for our governors to do that.
Donald Trump's worst nightmare is about to come true as American citizens detained by ICE are starting to talk. Now, as you know, there have been countless stories of American citizens who have been detained and arrested by ICE, and some held in custody for up to 30 days. Well, a pastor in Minnesota who was detained by ICE is now sharing his story, and it's not good. Take a listen.
A few moments later, they came back and they said, "Are you afraid yet?" And I said, "No." And then they said it. Well, you're white. You wouldn't be fun anyway.
Yeah, he was only detained for a little bit, and that's the story he has to share, and he's only going to be the beginning. And as the American people start to hear the stories of what Donald Trump's police force is doing to American citizens, they're not going to be happy about it, and they're going to turn in numbers on Donald Trump and the Republicans that have enabled him. This is going to blow up so badly for all of them. And when Congress is back in control of the Democrats, the investigations are going to be something to behold. Buckle up.
ICE agents in Minneapolis detained a pastor and tried to intimidate him, then let him go after saying, "Well, you're white, you wouldn't be any fun anyway." Check this out. This is from MS Now. They interviewed this pastor. He said, "I saw ICE agents circling a young woman who appeared to be Hispanic. I said to this agent, 'Take me, stop harassing her.' The agent got in my face, pointed a firearm at me, and said, 'Are you afraid now?' To which he said, 'I am not.' The next thing I knew, they were putting me in handcuffs and put me in the back of an SUV. I asked them if I was under arrest. They said to me, 'Well, you're white, you wouldn't be any fun anyway.'" This raises even more serious questions about how ICE is handling their authority. Who are these people? Where are they recruiting them from? It's obvious they are not going through proper training or vetting, because if they were, they would not be behaving this way. Detaining somebody for intervening verbally, especially without a clear arrest, is not how accountability is supposed to work in a functioning democracy. But what really stood out to me was the comment about race. It shows the mindset of these ICE agents. They treat people differently based on the color of their skin, not what they've done.
Everyone needs to see this video because this is quite serious, and this is a proof, So a pastor in Minneapolis, Kenny Callahan, was held in an SUV, was first held at a gunpoint, then held in an SUV, and then released with the words, "You're not white anyway, it's not going to be fun." And this is his interview, and I'm going to show it to you, the excerpt from it, and you need to see it. You need to see it because this is a proof. Let's watch it.
An ICE agent literally came over to me and said, "What did you say?" I said, "I am not afraid." And they pointed a gun in my face. ICE put handcuffs on my hands and put me in a black SUV. And then a few moments later, they came back and they said, "Are you afraid yet?" And I said, "No." And then they said it. "Well, you're white. You wouldn't be fun anyway." It was then that I knew that this staging, that these ICE raids are really about fear and intimidation.
You know, for the longest time, black people have been trying to tell you guys that police brutality is a crisis in America, and it happens mostly to people of color, brown, black, Latino, anyone who is a person of color. But unfortunately, they weren't believing in it. Now, that pastor has literally came out very clear and exposed, and the message is out there very, very clear that for the longest time, black people have been trying to tell you guys that these folks, they are choreographing themselves as law enforcement, but in reality, they want to make America white again. They don't want to see, because if you want to experience this, just go at any street in Minneapolis or anywhere there is a highway. You will see when a white person drives his car or her car, and the federal agents or the ICE agents are there, they wouldn't stop him or they wouldn't stop them. But when it's a black person, they will make sure that they stop him and they ask for papers, for documents. They are racial profiling black people. They are going after black people. But because you guys don't want to believe it, your fellow white person who is also a pastor, I believe he wouldn't lie. He's telling us that indeed these folks, these agents are targeting white people, are targeting black people. Because tell me, what do you mean by you are white? You wouldn't be fun anyway. It means that there is fun arresting people of color. There is fun arresting and maybe doing the unthinkable for brown people, for black people. And this is just a proof that no one is safe in the United States. And people of color should literally hide themselves from these folks, these federal agents choreographing themselves as ICE, but in reality they are just after people of color, of which that pastor has exposed. It means that they are targeting them. But because they can't say we are targeting people of color so they could be called racist and make things easy, they are like, well, we are targeting illegal immigrants. But that's just the reality. You guys tell me what you think about that. Do you think that pastor is literally lying? Do you think he's just propagating propaganda? Do you think he wanted public attention? He wanted to trend? Or do you believe he is a believer, and as a believer he wouldn't lie and this is actually the truth? But for me, I actually believe him, because the tone of which he's saying, well, it is very clear that the federal agents are just targeting people of color, choreographing themselves as enforcing law and order and targeting illegal immigrants. But in reality, it's been all about people of color.